All right, we are back, and this time we are back with a panel discussion, the first panel discussion of Agency Advantage 2.0. And the topic is AI will not replace agencies, but it will replace the ones that don't adapt. So, in this panel discussion, we have very good people from the industry. So, right, starting with we have Masab Gadit, founder of Valos. So, Valos is an AI visibility platform that helps brand monitor, track, and improve visibility across ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, and AI search engines. So, let's welcome Masab on the stage. So, we
Thank,
have
thank you so much. Thank you, Danish, for having me. Thank you.
the second panelist is Aurelio from WP Umbrella. Most of them you already know Aurelio from WP Umbrella team. So it's a SaaS-based WordPress multi-site management tool. So welcome Aurelio on the Agency Advantage 2.0. The
Thank you.
third panelist is Mathieu Lamiot from the Group One. He is a VP of Engineering. So WP Group refers to the specialized WordPress ecosystem and associated software tools managed by Group One. So we welcome all three of you on Agency Advantage 2.0.
Hello, Danish. Thanks for having us.
I think we can start the discussion on AI will not replace agencies, but it will replace that ones that don't adopt. So we can start with the first question. And my question to all the panelists, and I would like to start with Aurelio. Like everyone says, there are using AI. What's the difference between an agency using AI and an AI native agency?
Thanks for asking, Danish. I'm very opinionated on this. An agency using AI is an agency that does almost the same thing, but much faster, right? And actually, this is why we often say that since we have AI, we are working much more, even if we are much faster, right? And AI native agencies is something entirely different. But I think, and that's what I was telling Matthew in backstage, I think AI native agency is mostly a VC bullshit dream in the sense that you can be AI native with accounting, with things that have clarity, but when you run an agency, you have to deal with messy scope, clients who don't know what they want, and even if they do, you need to drive them into another direction. And because AI is something probabilistic, if the initial output, no matter how many questions you ask, if the output is not good, the result is not going to be as good as expected, which is why I'm a bit skeptical about this very fancy AI native agencies. But I give the hot potato to Masab or Matthew.
All right, I can go next on this.
Yeah.
First of all, I agree with what Aurelio mentioned about the difference between an agency using AI and an AI native agency. For me, the test to tell you if you are using AI or AI native is, are you still doing your old job? If you're a developer still writing code, even if you have an agent helping you, well, you're using AI, but you're not AI native. You're still doing your old job. If you're an accountant still going through Excel sheet or an accounting tool, maybe you use AI, but you're not AI native. If you want to be AI native, it means that your job now is to teach AI and agents how to do your previous job. So you spend your day building agents, refining prompts, and so on to improve the quality of the AI. So for me, that's the main difference. I would be a bit less pessimistic or optimistic, depends on how you see it, than Aurelio. Obviously, there's a huge part of agency work that can be AI native. I think both of us agree on this. But I suspect maybe almost all of this could be. I do believe with the right agentic system and really refining the prompts, we can really go to a great extent. But to be honest, it's hard to tell. I don't think anyone is there yet, right? People are pushing the barrier. How far will it go? Still need to be seen, but definitely 70, 80%, I would say, of agency work can be AI native. Can we go to 100? Yeah, time will tell.
And I have to say that what I said is as of today, because maybe in a few months or a few years from now, things will be different, but as of today.
It goes fast.
Of course, I partially agree with both of the guys. I mean, huge respect. For me, the definition is pretty clear actually. So for example, and I like to give it an example to define for me what is agency using AI and what is the AI native agency. And of course, jury is out, so there is no one concrete definition here. So of course, agency using AI can be considered as like there's a content agency, okay, and who is delivering content to their clients for the last, say, 4 or 5 years. And they're still delivering the content, but this time they're doing it using ChatGPT or Claude or any other AI engine, basically doing the same thing, but in a cheaper and the most faster way. So that is, for me, is the agency who is using AI. On the other hand, AI native agency for me is the one who is forward-looking agency. They are the one who basically, in the same context, they are the one who basically understands that the new client of their client is going to come from ChatGPT, and they are offering new services to their clients to get visible in ChatGPT. So basically, that is like understanding the fact that new services can be offered, which were not being offered or not possible to offer, say, 2 years back. Now you're offering those services, new billable services, using AI. So for me, that's AI native agency. And again, as I said, I mean, jury is out. So I don't know what is the correct definition here, where we all be agreed on. But this is how I see things.
And yeah, I mean, building websites for agents too could also be part of what is an AI native agency.
Exactly. That's how I think. So, for example, I was that. So there's a company who just got acquired by Sitecom, Scrunch.com, and their main the punchline for them was that they are basically creating a new internet, and the agencies they had were of the same opinion that we are basically AI native agencies who are basically now building websites for the agents, and with a belief that the tomorrow's visitor is not human but the agent. So yeah, completely agree.
And Masab, I have a follow-up question to you. Like, if you were starting an agency from scratch tomorrow, what would your first 3 hires be, and what AI handles instead?
Okay, so that's a great question, I would say. For me, I won't see it from a perspective of a hire. I would see it from a perspective of a roles. That what 3 top roles I would be having today, because as we all know that AI has done a lot of work for us, so we have to take that into the consideration, of course. So, for example, for me, the first and the foremost role that needs to be played by the human is the person who needs to meet with the client in the same room. I don't think AI is there yet where client can completely, with a lot of confidence, can understand that this AI is going to is going to empathize with me. That person needs to empathize with that client and understand exactly what they're actually looking for. So that soft skill part is still not there yet. So I believe that role needs to be played by the human, and that is the first role I'll be having in my agency. The other one will be the builder. Now, this is where the AI can do a lot of its work. So after understanding what client is basically looking for, now this role will be responsible for creating and making that happen. Because this is where all of the work, all of the investment up till yet has been done in the AI to just make sure that anyone can build today. So that is the second role. The third one would be, again, that the same human needs to play, is the taste, is the quality. Again, AI is, at best, is the best average of average. It cannot give you the best of the results today. And I believe that third role that needs to be played, maybe by the same person or maybe by another person, is to make sure that what is being delivered to the client at the end of the day is basically not just making sure that it is being delivered, but delivered with the quality and surpassing the expectations of the client. So these are the three roles I look at. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. Any comments from your end, Aurélio, on this? As you also.
For the same question,
Yeah.
I would.
I just want to know your opinion on it. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with what was said, but the most important thing is to, at the end of the day, go in the room and meet with the client. And maybe when agent will be deciding on the behalf of client, this will not be needed anymore. But we are not here yet, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. What I would hire would be an AI-friendly designer, because today you can build amazing stuff with Cloud Design, ChatGPT design, but still, when it comes from a designer, it's even better. And it's like coding. Coding has made good developer amazingly good. And I would look for a designer who is AI savvy and who don't perceive AI as a threat, but as a way of building at scale hundreds of amazing design. That would be my first pick. And my second pick, and I mean, if I about to start an agencies, it's, if it's a 3-person agencies, then I take a designer, I take a developer, and I take the project manager, right? What I would invest in if I was like a bit bigger would be someone obsessed about documenting things, building processes, and turning this into an internal AI living documentation, because what I see is that the agency that struggle don't have systems. There are a sum of the people that are working there, and that's it. And if someone goes in holiday, if someone is sick, then you lose time, you have to catch up, it's a mess, it's complicated. So I would look for someone a bit weird, who like to build processes, to fuel and feed info into an AI to build this internal portal for my agency.
So Matthew, as a VP of engineering, so what would your first 3 hires?
I think what Masab mentioned makes a lot of sense, but I would pick on what Aurélio mentioned, and I think that's the main takeaways is whatever hires you do, I think you need to hire them and look for people that have this AI ready mindset. Is that you're not looking just for a great designer, you're looking for a great designer who's willing to scale its work thanks to AI. You're looking for that weird person who wants to build processes and documentation to empower AI, right? So that they're already accepting that their work is going to evolve and they're going to work to make the AI system better, right? So I think that's a mindset that actually, because AI first I think in development, that's where it came through first. This is a mindset we're seeing more and more in engineering positions, but that's actually a mindset that I think almost every existing kind of roles can have, and that's the mindset that I think we really need to be looking for into those when doing those hiring, so that then it scales into the system that Aurélio mentioned, not just the sum of people.
Great. So, Aurélio, as you work closely with agencies running recurring maintenance businesses, what operational habits separate growing agencies from agencies that are stagnating?
I see mostly 3 things. The first one is that agencies that are growing have clear processes and they are using right tools. They don't do updates once in a while. Nothing is a shot in the dark. So they do, for instance, update every week. They do backup every day. And at the end of the month, they send a care report and they have regular touch point with the clients. They have a clear pricing package. They have processes from onboarding to offboarding. And to me, it's funny to speak about AI native agency while I see in my day-to-day life so many agencies just lacking of basic SOP and processes. But it's when you have SOP and processes that you can exit what I call the rat race, and start to be profitable. So this is the first thing. The second thing is that the growing agencies are automating as much as they can. They are automating plugin update, they're automating backup, they're automating reporting, they are automating everything. And the last thing, which is at the end of the day, the easiest and the most important, is that they have stopped to sell task and they are selling clear outcome. Because your client, if you're an agency, is not building a website, is not buying a website, is not buying plugin update, is buying something that will turn into profit. So you are selling a website that converts, you are selling a website where the data is going to stay safe, a website that's going to stay fast, but you are not just selling a website, you are not just selling like weekly plugin update. This doesn't have any sense. This is what we see. And on the other hand, the agencies that are stagnating or collapsing are the one without that, where things are manual and where the owner is the system.
Okay. So my next question is to all the panelists, and I think we can start with Masab. So as the theme of the event is also like surviving and scaling in the age of AI. So my question is related to the theme. So if AI help agencies deliver work faster, so should clients pay less, the same, or more? So I think we can start with Masab and wanted to know his point of view.
Thank you. So again, very interesting question, and I think a lot of agencies are basically asking this question one way or the other in the WhatsApp groups and everywhere. I don't think I have a very concrete answer to that, but what I think is that they should certainly be charging more, or at least what they are charging right now. And the reason is pretty simple, because agencies should be responsible for delivering the outcomes. They are not responsible, so clients do not buy your hours, they buy the outcome. Now it's up to the agency that how they basically package their work. If they are basically offering their services based on hours, then I think this is time to reconsider its pricing strategy. But if they are basically offering based on the outcomes, then I think they're living in a booming world anyway. Because now with the same headcount, with the same cost, as I say, if it's an AI native agency, then I believe they can offer more services and they can handle more clients. So it means that they can deliver more outcomes, and that will drive more revenue to the agency. So as I say, that at least should be charging exactly what they are charging. Do not go for the discounts because the AI. So AI is basically making you faster, but that doesn't mean that outcomes are good. For that, agency needs to spend some time and make sure that if it is happening. I always give this analogy that if God forbid something happens, we go to the surgeon, and we don't say that give us a discount because operation was happened quickly or it was completed quickly. No, we don't ask for the discount for that, right? Because we know that outcome is what really matters. So the same analogy, I believe happens to apply here. Yeah, so this is how I feel that agencies should certainly be charging more, or at least exactly what they're charging.
And what's your opinion, Matthew, on this?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would actually say a bit the opposite. I completely agree with Masab, but then we have to acknowledge that the cost structure will be collapsing, right? And there will be, if you don't charge less, then you will have a competitor that will say, okay, I can do the discount to steal your customers. So I do think that one way or another, the system will bring the cost down for the exact same outcome as today. And that's where we can really act, is because the mass market, like the people that just want like a simple website just being maintained and stay up, the cost will probably be lower. But because you just can take care of those customers very easily with AI and automation, you can do a lot of them, and you can add more services for premium customers. So I think agencies can start on the news, like really investing into premium segments and say, okay, I have this mass market that I feed with very low prices just to have a baseline, and then I have time to invest into really high added value customers, like, I don't know, complex integrations, or like very specific industries, or very sensitive high stake launches. But anything that today sometimes agencies are a bit reluctant to invest into because it's too much of a cost, maybe they can do that tomorrow because they have this baseline of just almost free to serve customers, I would say. So I think cost will go down. That's my take. But then the right move is for agencies to kind of reframe their value indeed around outcomes, and not just hours, right? Around outcomes, around strategy, and really start charging for the premium, for thinking, for judgment, for what's the best move, maybe even for counsels, or being an advisor in the web space, or the agent web space, should I call it, if that's the web tomorrow. So that would be my take to mitigate the lower prices.
So we have two different opinions, and I think it is good to have different opinions. So the agencies who are listening, they can learn something different. So I would like to know your opinion on this, Aurelio. Like what you are saying on this.
I think it's between what both guys said. The bottom of the market is indeed probably going to not to collapse, but as a matter of fact, it will be cheaper, and it's already cheaper today than yesterday to build a static landing page. And you can do this in 5 minutes. And in that regard, I think Mathieu is right. And on the other hand, AI is going to create so many opportunities, and it has never been about creating static landing page. This is the freelancer cuisine who create static landing page, and it was already cheaper than you if you're an agency. So I don't think agencies should charge less. I think some tasks will be less expensive, and this should be reflected. But I think other tasks will also have more value, because it's a race to the bottom on pricing, but it's also a race to the top on quality. And if you're good at what you do, you will charge people a lot. And if you are doing the average garbage, at the end of the day, it's all about the value you deliver to your users. I mean, I build a SaaS product, so I'm talking about users. But it has always been about what value can you give to your clients, and this will be even more true in the age of AI. And I think, sorry,
Yeah.
we are all probably computer people. We are all using AI too much, and we have to acknowledge that there are still many people, real business owner, that want to have a real human being in the room at the end of the day, and this has to be balanced, and it will be a mix, I think, between what Masab said and what Mathieu said, and it will be based on what value is actually delivered to the end client and who the end client is,
Agree.
Because, sorry.
So my next question is a very common question, but it is a very important question. And I want Masab to go first on this. Like, what is the biggest mistake agency owners are making right now when implementing AI?
Based on the discussions I've had with the agencies who are working with us, and I always see the same pattern. They are basically what I see is that the biggest mistake is that doing the same thing what they were doing for the longest, but doing with AI rather than adding any extra value into that. So we call AI slop. We call a lot of different names to that. But I think this is the biggest mistake I believe agencies are making today, because AI gives you a superpower. It makes you superhuman at times if you know the right tools. But at the same time, you have the responsibility to deliver the value as well. So I've seen this multiple cases where agencies get too much overwhelmed with the impact they can create in terms of urgency and the deliverables and the look and feel of the things at times, that and they were they were serving clients in maybe legal industry and some wild kind of industries, and they actually got pretty they're in pretty bad shape today, because they left them. The clients basically left them because of the fact that they realize they're not even looking at what they're offering right now. That they're offering, the deliverable, is basically the AI's law. So what I see is that, and this happens a lot of time when I work with agencies, that they're just using AI or any AI tool for the sake of just making things faster and cheaper, and they're not wrapping around the value. And they should understand that it's the value they were delivering their clients. The clients are there. It has nothing to do with the AI. As I believe Emilio was also saying, that at the end of the day, they're humans, and there's the humans look for value. Humans look for empathy. But if they do not get that, nothing really matters. So I think this is the biggest mistake agencies are making today. But of course, it's a learning curve, and of course, everyone is learning right now. It's too early for the AI. I mean, it's maximum 15, 16 months now, and we are talking about this, but I believe this is the inflection point for a lot of agencies and a lot of businesses, that how responsibly they basically use these tools. So yeah, this is the biggest mistake I see, and I think at the same time, the biggest opportunity a lot of agencies can take out of that would be that, and I think Matthew was talking about that a while back, that start offering something new, that what you cannot offer before. This is the biggest opportunity cost. They are basically incurring. They're not offering. They're just focusing on delivering the same thing they were delivering for the last 5 years at the cheaper cost, rather than focusing on what else they can offer because of what AI can enable them to do today. So this is how I think about the question.
So, Matthew, what's your opinion on the AI implementation mistakes?
I completely agree with Masab on this one. Just using AI to speed things up and exactly on your existing workflow is, well, it's better than nothing, but it's really not the end game, right? And I think what most people in agencies, but I mean, to be honest, everyone or most people in the industry, right? It's not just agencies, this is a new tool that is really changing, rebalancing completely how we generate and how we generate value. So all the processes, the way you build a website, the way you talk to a client, the way you do prospects and find leads, all those processes have been built and have been standardized a few years and decades ago when AI did not exist. So it has all been designed to optimize for typically engineering time, because that usually was the bottleneck, and so on. All those constraints that we had back then when those processes were created are now gone or have been moved to a different place. So now we actually need to take a step back, and all those processes, state-of-the-art processes for agencies, just accept that, hey, they're no longer valid, or they're no longer the best choice, just because the constraints have completely changed. And maybe back, I don't know, sometimes we say, you need, I don't know, 2 or 3 developers for 1 project manager. Probably that ratio is no longer valid. It might even be the opposite nowadays, right? So we completely need to take a step back and say, okay, now that I have those new possibilities with AI, how do I reallocate my resources to maximize for outcome? And I'm pretty sure the result is very different from the way we do it today. So yeah, I would say take a step back and rethink completely your process. Maybe take it one by one, right? It's always hard to reinvent yourself in a day, right? But for me, that's the biggest miss on embracing AI.
All right. Aurelio, your point on the same question, AI implementation mistakes.
I agree so much with what Matthew said. I think today most of the people, they are using AI to feed their ego. So they are using AI to do low value low value task. Hey, I'm going to vibe code a little plugin that I could have bought, and I spent a day, maybe two, vibe coding what I wanted. And when you do that, you avoid the strategic discussion, the one Matthew mentioned, because it's not about, oh, I'm going to save 40 euro at the end of the year because I ditch my WP Rocket license. It's about, hey, do I need my current team? And if the answer is no, what can I do with my people? How can I relocate them so I can produce value? And that's what is a bit, I think, I think it's the biggest mistake, like doing shallow ego stuff instead of stepping back and say, oh, now I have superpower. What can I do to turn this into super profit or super productivity or something super, But if this great power is only about, hey, I'm going to vibe code my own CRM, I don't think it's worth it. And I think I think most of the people today that are vibe coding are losing money. But it's a learning curve, right?
Definitely. And I was looking at the reel on the social media. So the person create the application using the vibe coding for the restaurant, and it has a bug. If you go to the URL and change the table number, so you can punch the order for another table. So I think these are the things we need to be take care of while using AI. So the QA session and all the things that are really important while using the AI, and we have to avoid these mistakes while delivering the project. So security should be considered while creating the projects. So I have a follow-up question, Aurelio. What is the one service, or you can say services, that currently agencies are selling that you believe will lose significant value because of the AI?
Cheap landing page or cheap website page without care, without extra services, without like clear outcome, like I said before.
And what's your take, Masab, on it? Like, if I ask you the same question, so what's your take on it?
I agree. I agree with what Emilio has said. I just increase the scope of it, that anything basically without the outcome is not going to work anymore. Of course, there was a time where agencies and there was proper companies who were basically responsible for delivering the landing pages in that scenario. But a time has come where this is not needed anymore. So the clients expects outcomes. So for example, landing pages, the people who are selling landing pages, now they have to sell that conversion rates. That, okay, if we create this landing page, we are responsible for increase the conversion rates. Now this is of the value. This is something client can see, understand, feel, and it's tangible. So I think I 100% agree with what Emilio has said. We need to deliver outcomes.
Matthew, your take, as we discuss on the landing pages, there are a few things on the engineering points as well. So what's your take on it?
Well, definitely right. I think that's already the case. I was playing with some AI website builder over the weekend. A few months ago, you could create a landing page in like 2 or 3 pages website directly with the lovables and all those ones. I tested them again this weekend. Now you can not only create those pages but directly host them. They are integrated with hosting. So really, the end-to-end flow from ideation to getting that live is now fully automated, right? So if all that you're looking for is this like average outcome, right? Nothing too fancy, just the average AI slope, there's really no more value there, because it can be fully automated and the cost is really ridiculous. There's no point in trying to align on those costs, right? It's just a gone segment of the market, I would say. So yeah, then it's about outcome, because today that's what those website builders cannot provide you. They cannot tell you, if you build your website with me or with our agent, then you'll get this conversion rate, then you'll get people carrying after where are users dropping, and so on. So those are the new parts where we can add value. Yeah.
Right. So as we know, we have a lot of tools. As we have Claude, we have Lovable, we have other tools as well. So my question to you, Matthew, is like, what skills should every agency employee learn today to remain valuable in the AI first world?
Um, I think that's something you can learn, but I would say curiosity. Because for me, it's like times are really crazy. Things are changing really fast, and no one's prepared. There's no one coming out of school already knowing those things, right? You need to learn as things evolve. So I think being curious is really the key skill. But
Yeah.
maybe something more concrete, I would go to prompt engineering. It sounds technical. Some people say it's already outdated because sometimes people talk about now like context management chaining, but at the end of the day, it's always the same thing. It's how to write instructions for AI to do what you want. And regardless of you being an engineer, a project manager, a designer, whatever you are, you will need to do that pretty soon. You already need to do that because going back to the conversation we had before, your role now should not be to do your job. It should be to build agents or teach AI how to do at least part of your job. So this is really, I think, the key skill. And it's actually, you can go quite deep in prompt engineering, right? There's a ton of courses and stuff online that are pretty good. I strongly recommend the Anthropic Skilljar platform. That's, I tried a lot of them. That's for me free courses and excellent. Really the best thing that I found out there. For me, that's really the key thing. Regardless of if you're marketing anything, it can sound intimidating, but I really believe this is what most people will be doing in a few years in the successful agencies is prompt engineering, like talking to
All right.
AI.
All right. Masab, if you want to add anything into this question.
No, I completely agree with what Matthew has said. I think the mindset is the most important thing. That is the curiosity. I remember when we were basically building our product. At that time, agents were a pretty new concept. So I basically studied the entire concept, and there is still a platform called Crew AI. I learned that and I implemented that, and it took us a lot of time to understand and implement. Overnight things got changed. GPT came up with their own agent, and Claude came up with their own, and Creo was nowhere near what they offered. So the rate of change is very fast. But what really important is that you have to be adaptable, and you cannot just sleep and say, okay, fine, I've done everything, I've achieved everything. No, that is not today. You cannot do that. You cannot even think of doing that. So you just need to be curious and have to be very much adaptable.
Great. To lightening the questions, I have a question to all of you, and the question is like you all need to fill the blank with your opinion. So the question is, the agencies most at risk over the next 3 years are the ones that we have the blank space. You have to fill out the space. So if we go first with Aurelio.
And I guess saying that don't use AI is such a shortcut. So I would say that don't use AI with clarity. I think it's all about clarity. Why do you do things? Because you need curiosity, you need creativity in prompting because you will hit walls. And if you are creative, then you can go to the left, jump over the wall, and you can basically overcome any problem. But you need clarity on why you do things. Um, that's my take.
Great. Matthew, your answer.
Yeah, I think it's a bit related to Aurelio's one, but it would be agencies that don't focus or sell outcomes, and like agencies that, for example, still price by the hour. I think they're in trouble. But it comes down and boils down to what Aurelio mentioned, right? Why are you doing things? How do you bring value? What are the outcomes that you're selling? For me, that's the strong focus here.
Masab, your input on this question.
Yeah, I think they covered pretty much.
Yeah.
I believe, yes, but I think I like to add one more thing. So agencies at risk, I believe, are the one who who still like to believe in AI. we still like to believe that AI has all the answers. So I think that they are the biggest losers of tomorrow, because that is not that is the hallucinated truth.
Agree. We are done with the questions for the panel discussion, but we have a Q&A session, and we have multiple questions for the panel. First of all, people really like the panel, so kudos to you all. And let me quickly jump on the Q&A session and check the latest one so we can take few of the questions. Then we can wrap up this session. Uh, the question is, how can agencies use AI to create advantages that competitors cannot easily copy? I think it's a good one. I also display the question on the screen. So if we go first with Matthew.
The one I see on the screen is different from the one you read, though, I think.
Okay, that can
But I
be
can
my
answer this one if you want.
yeah. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Well, there are a few questions I have to sort out the
All right.
item.
All right. No, that's fine. Will AI make the difference between average and exceptional agency is larger than ever before? Yes, I really do think that's the case. I really believe that unfortunately, some agencies, some companies will not jump in the bandwagon or be too late, or somehow refuse the change. I don't know, but yes, I think I would go even further than this. I think AI will make the difference between dying and surviving agencies.
Any thought on this, Masab?
No, I mean it's written on the wall. There's absolutely no space for an agency who still believes that AI is a fad. It's not a fad. It's a reality, and we all are living in that.
Yeah.
So there's no point to it. I mean, not put on thinking about that.
Agree. Aurelio, what's your opinion on it?
Agree. The gap is just going to be bigger and bigger between the one that are using AI the right way and the one that
I think we can take one more question. So let me ping it first on the screen. So, how to make the agency stand out in this era of fast-paced growing with a lot of competitors? So, again, we can start with Aurelio, and then Matthew, then Masab, and then we can conclude the panel.
Make yourself special. Find a niche, be yourself, and be a true version of yourself. Take the time to build your branding, and you will attract people like you, and deliver value, obviously, because with AI, it's very easy to be lazy. And we can see this in coding, because nowadays we have very good dev, but sometimes they just take like shortcut, or they don't do the extra troubleshooting step that they would have done like 2 years ago when we didn't have AI. And so excellence in delivering value will be, and taking the time to build a brand and to be authentic and to find your niche, but doing this extra step. And I think it loop with what Masab actually said, and I never thought about this, but do the extra mile. Don't just trust AI to do the heavy lifting.
Masab, your opinion on this?
So I completely agree with what Amelia has said. On top of that, I believe it's a big inflection point in the industry. So I think every existing business should start thinking about that, how they can offer. So competitors are also thinking on the same lines, right? So and no one knows the exact answer. What is the end game? No one knows right now. But you have to make sure that you're a part of the game. So I believe that the best answer right now could be that we start offering value-added services. In our portfolio, we have multiple agencies who are offering SEO services and content services and branding services for the last 5-6 years or 7-10 years. And now there's a huge FOMO around GEO services, generative engine optimization and all. And their clients are asking about that. So it's very easy. It's very natural for them to look for these services. And now what they did is that, now so they work with us, and then they start offering a completely new service to their clients. So it's a win-win for everyone. Client get what they want. They have a new billable service to offer. So I think this is the right way to go about it. That just to be competitive, start thinking from a fact that how you can deliver more with with the existing set of knowledge you already possess. Value addition, that is.
Matthew, your opinion?
Yeah, I think what Masab just said, especially at the very end, right?
Yeah.
What can you bring? What knowledge, what know-how do you have that your competitors cannot copy? Take a step back, because AI is rebalancing everything, right? It's no longer because you have some developers better than the competitors, so you're slightly faster. All that doesn't count anymore. So take a step back and just analyze what are your the cards that you can play. What is the knowledge you have now? Maybe it's because you work in a niche, but figure this out. Even if you adopt AI a bit later than your competitor, take this step back, and go 100% in whatever makes you different. I think that's the way out. Otherwise, you'll just drown in the mass.
Perfect. So we were discussing on AI will not replace agencies, but it will replace the one that don't adapt. So I would like to thank all the panelists, Masab, Aurelio, and Matthew, to join and take time for this panel discussion. That's it on this topic. But don't go anywhere. We have a session lined up with Brent Weaver, our own Brent Weaver, who is also the host of the event. Uh, Brent is delivering a session on how to leverage AI to avoid extensions and maximize growth. So stay tuned. We will be back with another session with Brent Weaver, and we will have Jan Boza to host the event. So stay tuned. We will be back.